last time you were here, towards the end of the interview, you dropped a name on me. And you said it once, and I heard it, and I quite quickly dismissed it. Like I said, I watched our show last night. And now we're here 2 years later, and there's a picture of me wearing a dress with that man on the wall here.
Yeah.
And that's Mr. Dan Peña, and that's me of him at Guthrie Castle in Scotland, where we were just there about a month ago for his birthday.
Yep.
And you had mentioned him just in passing as a mentor. And I was watching this last night, and I was like, I wonder if Peter or I would have known that a year later I would have been, finishing his Castle seminar and have been Peñaized. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Dan. It's funny, Olive from New York Reel, who you met when you were here for the McKernan event, she had a question about you two have very different styles. And
Correct.
So Olive said, quote, "To me, your calm, gentle, and nurturing energy is very different from Dan's loud, hysterical, and strict mentoring technique." That's Olive's quote. And you said trust your gut is something you learned from Dan. And I was wondering if you could just talk about Dan and how you two have very different styles, but you two resonate very much with the London Reel audience. I mean, you two are the names I hear over and over again when people meet me. Dan Peña, Peter Sage, Dan Peña. So there's resonance there, but you guys are on different frequencies, I think. Tell me.
Well, for a start, who would have thought what kind of domino we were tipping by that casual mention in the first interview? And it's been a real pleasure on my side to watch your growth and development through the sort of being Peñaized, as it were, and the amount of value and Dan has added to so many people through this channel too. And I'm very blessed to have been a little thumbprint on that at some level.
You were the reason I had Dan on. So because of you and the success of your show, and then you had mentioned him, that was how the domino affected, and then it affected my life, and
they say the river winds. Mm-hmm. But yes, Dan, wow, where do you start with Dan? I've got so much respect for Dan because a lot of people see Dan as the epitome of teaching by me. Yeah, get up, fight traffic, get the job done, work 1 billion hours a week, everything else. But in my experience, Dan is very much in through me for himself, for his truth. What he does, his role is to become the best business mentor that ever lived. And for a lot of people, especially those that are in sort of to me or low by me, he will kick you through. He will get the job done. He won't settle for your story. He won't settle for your addiction to certainty. He will spit that out in 20 seconds. And for a lot of people on that part of their journey, that's exactly what they need. Now, he quite rightly states, those that focus on the metaphysical and the metaphysical only, and can't pay their bills. You can't pay your hospital bills with Zen.
That's his famous quote from our episode, It takes money, not Zen.
Absolutely. As I said, you can't meditate you out of a tiger attack. We're in this physical world for a reason. The fact that we tend to challenge a lot of the metaphysical by going against it like a bull in a china shop is great for putting lipstick on the mirror and making an immediate change, but it doesn't always lead to that level of fulfillment, or it usually sets the game up to start hitting more mirrors. So what I love about Dan is that he's in his truth, 100%. His style is very much what a lot of people need for where they're at the time. But also a lot of people, congruently, aren't looking to be that level of high-performance person. If you want to go out and create hundreds of millions, which is what Dan teaches, and his methodology, his QLA stuff is out of this world. But not everybody is born for that. Not everybody's born to be an entrepreneur. If there were, then we wouldn't be able to employ anybody. So the market that Dan focuses on what he teaches is outstanding. If that's what resonates for you, go with it 100%. I fully endorse that. If you're looking for a mentor, go with someone you like, someone you respect, someone that's been where you want to go. And it takes flavors. Some people like blonde, some people like brunette. There's no downside on that. But Dan as a style is very unique, and some people resonate very well with that. Some people need that level of style. When I first ever met Dan 20-something years ago, I was in a hotel in London. I'd come down from London. And
from Leicester.
From Leicester.
From Leicester, yeah.
So a couple of 100-mile round trip. And because somebody said, you've got to see this guy. And I respected the recommendation, and I took the journey out of my busy life, head up my ass kind of deal. And I came down. I remember walking into a hotel in London. And I sat there, and guy comes out, and he starts talking about this Dan Peña guy. And, all of his accolades, an impressive guy. Walks his talk, and then, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Peña. And Dan walks out in this immaculate suit, his trademark three-piece suit, his gold pocket Rolex, and he stands there with his hands on his hips. Not as if he owned the room, not as if he owned the hotel, as if he owned the block, half of London. And he stood there almost in silence for a minute, very powerful, because he commanded his own presence. And he surveyed the room and he looked around. And the first words I ever heard come out of Dan Peña's mouth were, "You're all fucking poor." And he then proceeded to go on what we know now to be a dose of Dan. And he's mellowed a lot since then, by the way. Yeah, you're getting the easy part.
Yeah.
But within 10 minutes, what was interesting is half the people had left the room. I'm sitting on the front as a head up my ass in by me kind of guy, thinking, wow, I freaking love this guy. And it gave me a huge bolster, a huge boost. I took my bank manager to meet Dan a few weeks later because I was so impressed to go see him talk. And that led to a whole 20-year history now with Dan, and very, very blessed to have been part of that journey. But he plays the role he plays, and he plays it better than anybody else. I play the role I play. I'm not trying to compete with Dan. He's not trying to compete with me. There's different flavors of ice cream. I just prefer, in the place where I'm at in my life now, I don't want to work 130 hours. I'd rather work less hours, earn less money, and have more fulfillment. I don't want to chase that rabbit of make my next 100 million. I don't want to chase that rabbit of, get the next deal. Right now, I'm far more about being authentic and dialing into my truth, which is exactly what Dan's doing, which is why he's doing what he's doing. But for me, my level of truth is being able to share my message, being able to share some of the insights that can get people out of victim mode into by me mode. They can get people from swimming upstream to start actually flowing a little bit more with the current and get some more fulfillment, joy, and peace in their life rather than hit an intersection at 60 miles an hour plus and not have a better result.
Right.
So that's where we are. But I've got nothing but great things to say about Dan. If you've not seen his work, go check him out.
Yeah, go check him out. It's funny, we have our now 24-hour live streaming London Real channel on YouTube, so you can watch London Real any hour of the day, and so it's always running here in the studio, and sometimes I'll just walk by and I'll see all these old episodes, and there was me interviewing Dan at the castle yesterday, and I was just like, it's just fascinating to watch. I could talk 4 hours about Dan, the experience I had with Dan. And the great thing about your relationship with Dan is it changes every day. So, it could be up, could be down, could be all red capitals. Well, it's always all red capitals.
He keeps you on your toes.
He definitely does, and at the same time, like you said, a lot of people would see a buy me mentality with Dan because it's all about get this done, get this done. But I agree, he has there's a lot of through me happening in a very sometimes subtle way, but as you get to know him and get closer to him, you feel that through me. And I think that's what's kept me around. It's funny, I'll tell a quick story and then I want to move on. But I went up to the seminar and I interviewed him before the seminar and afterwards. And now I put the two interviews together and people have watched that. But I wasn't sure what was going to happen and I was ready to leave. Because like the way I was just, as soon as Dan pushes it too far, I'm out of there. And like that was my mentality. So I was like, I'm gonna have my bag packed, ready every morning, ready at lunch, and I'm gonna have the cab number, and I'm just out of there. And so I came up there with this defensive energy, and this was of course all me reacting to the situation. This was my anxiety because I was growing at the time that I was probably not recognizing as well. And it's funny, the minute I got into that castle and Dan greeted me for our interview, it all was resolved. And the energy I got from Dan was just complete opposite of what I expected. Of the, not I'm gonna tell you what to do and I'm gonna lay you out and do this, it was, ultimately I am here to help you. And I just felt that on some strange level, and it was all dissipated even before we did that interview. Yeah. So again, I'm not good about trusting my heart, very left brain engineer as Dan would call me, and so my training is to go by the numbers, but in retrospect, that's kind of what happened to me there. So
beautiful.
To be continued.
What I love about, and you epitomized it there, Brian, is what I love about Dan is that he believes in you more than you believe in yourself and will continue to believe in you until you do. That's something that I've modeled after Dan, and I totally respect him for. You may not like it. He may think that you need a slap and give you two, and it may be with something hard. But he's doing it from a place of, I believe in you more than you believe in you. Here's your potential. Why are you not grabbing it? And I have a softer way of doing that, shall we say? Well, I think anything compared to that would be seen as softer. Yeah, but I will call people on the shit. That's important because I'm not driven by the good opinion of others. I don't need to be popular in the moment for what I believe to be the long-term greater good, I'm perfectly willing to step in and be unpopular. And that's where I see a lot of people in the sort of coach mode aren't. They're like, they want to be your friend because they haven't resolved their own issues around good opinion of others and seeking unconditional love and all the rest of it. So unless you can give from your overflow, then you can't really help anybody. And Dan has so much belief in himself, he's able to elicit that from you.
Yeah, and I remember from countless emails back and forth with me and him, at one point I said something and it was a retort to something, and he was like, Brian, he's like, because I see so much potential in all of you. And he was just like, you could just see, it's almost like from his military background it's just like, there's so much potential here. It's a crime that you don't express it.
Yeah.
And I think Dan comes from that space sometimes, as in like, this just has to be done because it's a waste. And he does. He sees so much potential in so many people that when you don't, and he's there, like you said, he's there to see it through even when you don't want to, until it gets done.
Story of most people's lives, unfortunately, which is what I say, 70-80% of the world is in to-me mode. And if through the channel that you provide here, Brian, you can help people get out of that, I've got nothing but admiration and support.
Yeah, I hope. To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.